Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome to a Monster Hunter build guide video. In this video, I'll be covering all the different builds I've been testing and building over the last few days. I am now currently, I think, at high rank 100 and something, yeah, 103. And so I've had a decent amount of time here to try around different things at the end game, fighting a lot of the hardest end game monsters, including tempered Arkveld as well as tempered Gormagala. And once you get to the end game, you spend most of your time fighting those two to get the most amount of Ardium parts. But basically, we'll be going over both a new player friendly once you first get to high rank build, as well as some more advanced builds for veterans who have a little more experience with the monsters and can afford to go, I guess you could say, a little more of a glass cannon setup. So let me go to my loadouts here, or my different loadouts here, and I've been testing a lot of different things. First of all, I was testing kind of a new player-friendly build, which is revolving around Flayer. And then I tested a bunch of different versions of builds that use Burst, as well as trying to fit in the Gormagala set as well. All right, so the first set I want to go over is one that is either better for a newer player or just someone who wants a little bit more comfortable of a set that is less punishing when you get hit and don't play completely perfectly. And this is a Flayer 5 set for the Longsword here. And what Flayer allows us to do is it allows us to gain a lot more wounds, which makes the maintaining of our red gauge much easier, as well as here with the Guardian Arkveld set, we're going to be healing back when we break those wounds, allowing us to not have to use our potions nearly as often, if ever. So let me go over the total setup here. So, this set, we are going for a couple different options for weapons. This is going to be a set you're probably going to want to make as soon as you get to high rank. This is going to be a chill farming set. And at that point in the game, you're probably going to be just building or crafting one of the craftable weapons that isn't an atrium weapon. And there's two that I highly recommend. The first is the Lalabrina longsword here, because it has paralysis. Which by paralyzing enemies, you're just going to get a lot more damage uptime. So technically, it'll make the hunts easier, as well as technically it's more damage because you get so many paralysis during a hunt that you'll have more damage uptime. So overall, just a really good option. And there's only, I think, a couple monsters that are immune to paralysis. So it's pretty much good against all different monsters. And then moving on, we have the Gormagala longsword. And in the end game, you end up farming a lot of either Gormagala or Arkveld, which are both weak to the dragon element. So this just kind of is a no-brainer going for a dragon longsword here, and this is one of the best ones as far as the stats it gives you. And so these are the two that I recommend to build. And then beyond this, you're probably going to end up going for atrium weapons after you farm up those. But for now, these are two of the best options. Moving on for the armor, we're using Beta Arkveld, Guardian Arkveld for all 4 pieces besides the body armor. That is going to be the normal Ark Vulcan mail, just because it gives weakness exploit and has really good decoration slots here. And the total stats we're going to be going for here are, we're going to have Paralysis Attack 3. This is in our Lalabrina weapon. This will make it easier to paralyze. And then we're using a level 2 critical status decoration here. And then finally, we're using a critical jewel. The goal of this build is to be critting like close to 100% of the time, and critical boost is pretty much roughly a 6 attack damage boost here with baseline 200 attack. And then with all your buffs up and in red gauge, you're going to be closer to 250 attack, which then makes it even better, closer to 8. So it's definitely better than an attack decoration could ever be if you're close to 100% crit. And that's our goal here. So what's going to get us to that crit is a combination of things. We have Maximum Might, which is going to give us 30% crit while our stamina bar is full. And while the enemy is either knocked down or paralyzed, you're pretty much always going to be at full stamina. And that's where you're going to get most of your damage out anyway. And that is going to give you that extra affinity so that you crit more often. Weakness Exploit is going to give you... I guess I can read these for you guys. So yeah, Maximum Might, 30 affinity while active. Weakness Exploit, 30 affinity against weak points and an additional 20 against wounds. The head is usually a weak point on pretty much every monster. And while you're paralyzing or knocking them down, you're going to be able to just wail on that head to gain that extra 30 affinity. And then occasionally the monster will also be wounded because we are using Flayer. We're going to be applying a lot of wounds. and that is going to give us a lot more damage against those parts, giving us another 20 affinity. Now, when breaking wounds, you are technically hitting them, so when you're using your wound breaking attacks, you're going to be gaining that bonus as well. So this build, the way it plays is you basically create wounds, break those wounds. Usually it does so much damage when you break multiple wounds at the same time that you'll be getting a knockdown. And then during that knockdown, you wail on the head with close to 100% crit because of maximum might being up. And rinse and repeat. And as well as you'll be getting paralysis, paralyses, which are pretty much the same thing. Moving on, we get 3 points of Divine Blessing. This is, like I said, makes the set a lot more comfortable. You take less damage overall when you get hit. Has a chance to reduce damage taken by 50%, which is massive. Quick Sheath, really nice for the Longsword to speed up the animation after finishing your Roundhouse Slash or entering the Special Sheath, or just putting your weapon away to go heal or run away or whatever. Moving on, we got 1 point of Burst. Burst is a very high damage, very good skill to have in this game, but it has the highest value at just 1 point, giving you a total of 8 attack and I think 60 element when the burst buff is active. So it gives you a lot of value, and each point after that only gives you, I think, an additional 2 attack and 20 element. So it ends up being highest value to just get 1 point of this if you're not going for a full damage build. And because we're trying to fit 5 points of Flayer, it's very hard to fit more burst, so just getting 1 here is ideal. And then we have 1 point of Pipe Breaker is just kind of nice for getting more parts. It's already built into the armor, and 1 point of Elemental Absorption, again, also built into the armor. This will give you a little bit more elemental damage when you take elemental damage, not bad. And also some resistances. The one thing that is kind of annoying about this build, which is kind of one downside, is it has very bad dragon resistance, -19. So if you get hit by those big dragon attacks by Gormagala or Arkfeld, they are going to hit you pretty damn hard. So that is like one of the downsides, but you're going to get so much defense being full tier 8 armor that can kind of make up for it, as well as having Divine Blessing level 3. So it's not too bad overall. And our set bonuses, the Decimator 2 here is going to give us a massive heal after breaking wounds on an enemy. So that's going to allow us to basically heal back to full if we're low. And then this one I'm not going to worry about. And yeah, that is the set. Very casual, very chill, very comfortable farming set that keeps the enemy pretty much staggered most of the fight, either from knockdowns after breaking a bunch of wounds or with paralysis. And it's also very forgiving. If you get hit and take damage, you have a chance to take less damage, and then you can instantly heal that back up with the set bonus by breaking wounds. As well as with all the wounds you're going to be creating, it's very easy to stay in your red gauge of your longsword, because by breaking those wounds, you're going to be getting gauge by doing that. So yeah, amazing, chill, casual farming set for either newer players or people who just want something that's a little more comfy. Moving on. We're going to go to the higher damage sets, which are for people who have learned the mechanics and are a little more of a veteran player, as well as they've learned the moveset of the monsters and they're able to avoid and use their EI slash and their Foresight slash more actively to avoid damage. All right, so the next set is a transitionary set between something that is more comfortable, like the Flayer 5 set, and something that is higher damage. And this set is probably still going to be using either the Gormagala or the Lalabrina longsword, but probably if you're going for more damage, you probably don't care as much about paralysis. So at this point, you're probably going to be going for just using the Gormagala. Dragon seems to be the best element in this game at the moment, because both of the endgame monsters you're going to be farming a lot, Gormagala and Arkfeld, are both weak to it. So we're going to be running with that. And it just inherently has really good stats. It has 20 affinity, 210 attack, and decent dragon element. Eventually, you're going to want to be creating an atrium weapon, but I'll go into that later. So with this set, we are getting a lot of nice things. We are getting the 2-set Ebony Odogaron set bonus, which increases the duration burst is active, as well as giving us an additional 3 attack. And this makes it much more forgiving. If you have a few seconds of downtime where you're not hitting the enemy, you're going to maintain that burst buff. Without this, the burst buffs falls off almost as fast as you apply it. So this is almost mandatory for getting good burst uptime unless you're basically hitting on repeat. So if there's ever any downtime at all, you're going to lose that burst buff. But with this, even with a little bit of downtime, repositioning, maybe aiming your attacks a little bit, you'll be fine. You'll still have that burst active. And then we also get the 2 Arkfeld Hunger, which slowly regenerates your life as long as you hit the enemy repeatedly. So it's like kind of like lifesteal, but it's a very small amount. So it's not really very effective at healing a lot of damage. It's going to be healing just a small amount of chip damage that you take. Still nice to have, but not significant. Definitely not nearly as good as the Guardian Arkfeld healing when breaking those wounds. But it's still nice to have, and we fit it in, so might as well take it. So yeah, we're going to be using the Guardian Ebony Beta helmet and the Guardian Ebony Beta gloves, as well as Arc Vulcan Male Beta and Arc Vulcan Coil Beta. And then finally, the Udra Midgreaves are very good because they give, I think, they give a point of burst as well as a level 3 decoration slot, so very nice. And with all this, plus our decorations here, we're running, in the weapon, I'm using a Dragon Focus. You can also you probably should be using, there are a few different hybrid variants of the tier 3 decorations. There is a Dragon Focus, Dragon Handicraft, Dragon Sharp, and I think Dragon Critical Element. Those are all viable, but because the Gormagala weapon already gives you 3 critical element points, you probably want to go for Dragon Handicraft or Dragon Sharp. I think I do have one, but I just haven't put it in. And then we want to get as much critical boost as possible because, like I said, we're going to be critting close to 100% of the time. 50 from Weakness Exploit, 30 from Maximum Might, and then an additional 20 from our weapon, equaling 100 against wounds and 80 against non-wounds, but weak points. So critical boost, the way it works is it's 3% crit multiplier, and because most longswords have roughly around 200 DPS, that means each point of critical boost, as long as you're critting, is 6 damage. And then that goes higher as you get more buffs and as your damage goes up. With all your buffs active, with your food buff and might pills and stuff, this attack value can go to 270 or something crazy. And so then your critical boost is giving even more value. Instead of just 3, instead of each point of crit boost giving you 6 attack, it's giving you close to 9 or 10. So definitely much better than attack decorations as long as you are critting. So these are the best in slots. And then moving on, we've got Mighty. We've got 3 Mighty decorations to get our maximum might up. We've got 1 chain to get that last point in burst, and 1 counter attack. So Adrenaline Rush is interesting because the first point of Adrenaline Rush gives you plus 10 attack while it's active. So as long as you're good at using your Foresight Slash and you have pretty good uptime on this, this is the highest damage you can get out of any level 1 of the level 3 decorations. So this is an option. You could also go for maybe Agitator or maybe just a 1-point Flayer if you just wanted to get a few more wounds occasionally. But I think, honestly, this is probably the best as long as you are good at using that Foresight. So Counterattack, Jewel, we get 1 of those for 1 point in Adrenaline Rush, and then we're using 3 small Sheath Jewels to get our Quick Sheath up to level 3, as well as 1 protection for that 2nd point in Divine Blessing. You could also go for Adaptability or something like that if you don't like dealing with the cold and hot weather. That's kind of up to you. I just like Divine Blessing because it just makes the build a little bit more comfy. So this is a transitionary build between the more comfy Flayer build and a higher damage Burst build. And we are using the Exploiter Charm here. All right, so moving on to the next set. This is going to be a set that is now changing yet again. And this is one, at this point, where I would recommend using an Atrium weapon because Atrium weapons can have higher overall damage, and you can kind of tweak them to have the exact amount of affinity or whatever that you want. So here, let me get off my mount. So let me show you basically what I've gone for here with this build. And this is one you're going to want to be using an Atrium weapon with because you're going to have less affinity overall with your Atrium weapon, but more damage. And so to compensate for that less affinity, we are using the Gore Megala set bonus. And the way this works is it inflicts you with a debuff called Frenzy as soon as you get close to a large monster. But as long as you attack enough, you will eventually overcome that Frenzy. And once you've overcome that Frenzy debuff, it'll give you an additional 10 affinity. And you can pair this with another skill called Antivirus, which upon recovering your Frenzy gives you another 15. So you can get a total of 25 affinity by using these together. And that is going to help with our, affinity uptime, getting us pretty much 100% crit almost all the time. So now we're going to have, once we cure our Frenzy, 25 affinity from Antivirus and the Gormagala set, another 30 from Maximum Might when our stamina is full, 55. Weakness Exploit, if we're hitting a wound, we're already at 105, but if we're not hitting a wound, we're at 85. And then you can get a Atrium weapon with exactly 15 affinity so that you're at 100% crit even when not hitting wounds. Because hitting wounds is kind of inconsistent. You're not always going to be hitting wounds. You're going to try your best to almost always hit weak points. So you're going to gain that 30 bonus from Weakness Exploit almost always. But wounds are a little less consistent. So this the goal of this set here is to have 100% crit even when not hitting wounds. But yeah, we are getting the Gormagala set bonus, and that is it. We are not getting any other set bonuses because we couldn't fit them, unfortunately. But this set is nice because it still gives you some of the quality of life that we had before. We still have Quick Sheath level 3, and that is basically it as far as quality of life goes. And we have 2 points of Constitution, which are kind of nice because it reduces the fixed stamina cost of using your Foresight. And when you're in raid gauge, you tend to use your Foresight a lot to evade damage, so you want to make sure that you're spending less stamina so you can get back to full stamina quicker to get better maximum might uptime for more crit. So Constitution, it might be counterintuitive, but it's actually quite good even for Longsword because of the current playstyle of Longsword spending almost all its time in red, and the Foresight slashing in red also has a nice follow-up, so you end up using it a lot even just for damage. You avoid damage, and then you get more follow-up damage, and then straight back into your Crimson slash, spam. But basically, we are getting, with this set, we are getting 5 points of burst, 5 points of might, or 3 points of might, 5 points of weakness, the 3 antivirus, the 3 quick sheet, 2 constitution. Flinch tree, we don't really care about this, but it's just built in, so it's not terrible. It's kind of nice to have. But yeah, and then we are using Greater Ebony Beta Helm again with a Mighty Jewel in there. We're using the Arc Vulcan Mail again with a Chain Jewel and a Mighty Jewel. And the Chain Jewels here are interchangeable because I'm using the Weakness Exploit charm. But if you have the Burst charm instead, you can change these out for Tenderizer decorations, but I'm just using the Weakness Exploit charm in this demonstration. So 1 chain, another Mighty, triple sheath, our third point in chain. So we get 3 chain decorations to give us 3 points of burst, and then the last 2 points of burst are coming from the helmet. And then we're getting all 3 points of maximum might from our Mighty decorations, and then we're getting the 2 sane decorations we need to get our antivirus up to level 3 paired with the armor here. The Gormagala, I think, is also giving us another point of sane, or a point of, antivirus. So this is going to give us the best overall setup for a high crit build that is using an Atrium weapon. And for Atrium weapons, what I recommend for a build like this is I recommend, like I said, 15 affinity, and then as much, here, let me go to my weapon. Okay, here we go. 15 affinity total, and then as much elemental boost as possible with at least 1 sharpness boost. The Atrium weapons do not have a lot of inherent white sharpness, so you want to get at least 1 of those. And then because you're going to be fighting mainly Arcveld and Gormagala, which are weak to dragon, you want to maximize the amount of elemental boost you're getting because that's a massive 50, whereas the attack is only giving you +5. It's not amazing. So I like to go for the elemental boost. So this is close to being a perfect weapon. If I could replace this elemental or this attack boost with another elemental boost and then maybe get 5 more affinity, it would be pretty much ideal. But it's very hard to even get 3 elemental boosts together like this, so I'm going to roll with this for now. So my crit is against non-wounds, it's 95, which is damn good by itself. I rarely don't crit. All right, so that is the next set, which is has a little bit of comfort as far as it has quick sheath, but it's still not the highest possible damage. So we're going to graduate to the very last set here, and this one is the highest overall damage if you are a god gamer and you never get hits, and you're great at using your Foresight slash, and you stay in red gauge all the time. This will be the best set overall, and that is coming at the cost of our quick sheath. So this set is slightly different. What this is going to allow us to do, this set is going to give us both the Ebony Odogaron set bonus and the Gore set bonus at the same time. But to make this work, we do have to sacrifice the quick sheath. But that is okay, because the way that Longsword plays right now is basically you're going to sneak attack into a charged roundhouse to get your first point of, or you're going to either, well, the way I would do it, you could either sneak attack or charge roundhouse, but you're going to go up behind the monster before it recognizes you, before it's aggroed, and you're going to use a charged roundhouse to get your first white level of gauge. Then you're going to immediately go into a special sheath, and you're going to counter the roar. That gets you to yellow, and then you probably go straight back into a special sheath again, and that'll get you to red on their first attack. So after the first attack of the monster, you're already in red gauge, and then you go to town and just start spamming your Crimson Slash. And if the monster's about to hit you, that's when you use your Foresight and the follow-up to get right back into melee range to continue spamming your Crimson Slash. So in this, with this playstyle of Crimson Slash spamming, you're really not going to be using your special sheath or any of your sheathing attacks almost at all. You're going to try to avoid even having to use them at all. So you're not really going to need the special sheath or the quick sheath anymore. So what this allows us to do by dropping the quick sheath is we are able to fit in that Ebony Odogaron set bonus. And the reason why that's so important is, again, it's another 3 attack that we gain. But beyond that, the main reason for using it is the uptime on the burst buff is going to be much better. Without it, like I said, the burst buff falls off almost as quick as you apply it if you have any downtime. Whereas with the burst boost from Ebony Odogaron, you have like a 3-second window where it stays active even when not attacking, which just increases the uptime a whole lot. And like I said, Constitution, again, lowering the amount of stamina you spend when using your Foresight is going to keep you in that maximum might state much more often. So this is the highest damage set possible. One thing you could also try is you could, if you wanted to, you could change this chain jewel out for the counterattack, again, to get that 1 point of Adrenaline Rush, which is going to give you a massive 10 attack. The way that chain works is the first point, it gives you 8 attack and 60 element, but each point after that only gives you an additional 2 attack and 20 element. So each point after the first is less valuable. So getting that last point, that 5th point of burst, isn't all that important. You're losing out on 2 attack and 20 elements, but you could replace that, like I said, if you wanted to, with a counterattack jewel or decoration. And that would give you probably the highest possible damage as long as you have a proper playstyle and you're avoiding all the damage with the Foresight, because you're going to have pretty much 100% uptime here on the Adrenaline Rush buff. And like I said, the Adrenaline Rush buff, the first point is the most valuable at giving you plus 10, and then each point thereafter only giving 5. So if you can just get 1 point of Adrenaline Rush and maintain that plus 10 attack while you're fighting, that is much better than pretty much any other level 3 decoration at one level can give you. So yeah, this is probably, with the Adrenaline Rush, this is the highest damage possible of a set. Now, it has some quality of life problems, like you do not have Quick Sheath anymore, so you're going to have to play around that. Like I said, you want to get to red before the boss really has even done anything. You'll be at red after his first attack if you do the combo I mentioned. And then from there on out, you're going to try and stay in red as much as possible. The only time you're going to drop off of red is either you're running out of red, and you at that point would use a Helm Breaker. And then as soon as you're done with your Helm Breaker, you're going to use whatever wounds the monster has available to try and get back to red ASAP. And you're going to try and stay in that red state as long as possible. And then by using the Quick Sheath attack, occasionally, you're also going to be able to generate red gauge over time, which is going to help you stay in that red gauge a little bit longer. And I'll talk about these combos a little bit later in the test dummy area. But yeah, this is, like I said, probably the highest damage build you could possibly make that has no quality of life. It is designed for a very skilled player. I guess you have 1 point of Divine Blessing, which is okay. But yeah, no Quick Sheath, only 1 point of Divine Blessing, no healing, just high damage. And we are getting this by, like I said, guarding Ebony. We're using the Ebony Braces A instead this time, instead of the Beta. So this is the only alpha set we're using. And then Arc Vulcan Beta, Gore Beta, and the Exploiter Charm. So yeah, this will give you the most damage overall. And I like to use the Rocksteady Mantle, just because it allows me to ignore roars and some chip damage and knockbacks and stuff that will interrupt your combos. You could also go for the other mantle that gives you affinity, but like I said, this build already has 100% affinity, even against non-wounds, so that's kind of overkill. And you don't really have any way of healing while you're dealing damage. So the damage that that other mantle, I think it's called the corrupted mantle, is doing to you will stick, and that kind of sucks. You don't want to be taking damage for no reason. So yeah, in my opinion, I think probably the Rocksteady is the best option. Corrupted Mantle would be better for a build that is like intentionally getting less affinity built into the skills to get more damage. Maybe you go for Agitator or something instead of some of the points in Weakness Exploit. I don't know. There probably is an option to go play around that. But I don't pretend to be a speedrunner. I know that speedrunners go for different stuff than normal players. They go for like, you know, peak performance and Agitator and things that give them more damage during these conditional times when they either are full health or the monster's enraged. And speedrunners tend to be able to keep the monster either in that state or stay at full health the whole fight, so they're benefiting the whole fight. Whereas the average player is going to occasionally get hit, so peak performance is not always going to be active, and Agitator tends to be, for normal hunts, only about 50% uptime. Speedrunners are very good at like dealing a lot of damage and like instantly phasing the boss into the enraged state and then keeping them in that state pretty much the whole fight until they're dead. So yeah, this is by no means, I'm not trying to, you know, show you guys any kind of speedrunner builds. There are builds out there that have like Agitator 5, and they're using even stuff like some of the draw attack boosts, like what is the draw attack one, to get more damage on their draw attacks and get maybe a KO with the draw attack, like this, not Slugger, what is it, it's called? Like the, where is it? Like the Gambit, Punishing Draw. Like there are definitely better builds out there for if you're trying to get those like 2-minute temperate Arcfeld kills, but I'm not trying to advertise that here. I'm trying to just show you guys a progressionary way for you to go from a very comfortable set that is really nice for farming and is pretty laid back and chill and has a lot of quality of life and is not very punishing at all, has a lot of nice easy ways to heal and, you know, prevent damage, moving on incrementally to more and more damage with less quality of life. Ending in a set that is, I guess, preliminary to what I would say would be a speedrunner set. This is close to what a speedrunner would use, not quite. I'm pretty sure speedrunners are probably going to be using Agitator or Peak Performance or both instead of some of this stuff, but this is pretty close, and I think this is about the highest the average player can go to without becoming less effective. So as long as you're good at Foresight, as long as you're good at maintaining that Adrenaline rush buff, and you're good at maintaining your red gauge, this is going to be an amazing set for like veteran players to be using for the maximum damage. And yeah, I hope this video helps you guys out with the progression of the sets. I will go over the combos now, and let's go over to the training area, and I'll explain some things about how Longsword operates here in Wilds, which is different than in World. Alright, so when starting out a monster, the quickest way to get straight into your red gauge, before the monster is aware of you, is you're going to want to charge up your Spirit Round Slash and use this to lead into the monster. This will get you your first level of sharpness, and then you go straight into Special Sheath and use that to get to yellow. Then you can go for like, the easiest way to get back into Special Sheath is a poke, back into Special Sheath, and then that's how you get to red immediately, and that's the quickest way to get to red. And then from there, once you're in red, you're going to be basically using your Crimson Slash on repeat. You're going to be using your, basically your Spirit Blade 1 into Crimson Slash, and then repeating that until you're running out of red. And then when you get close to running out of red, that is when you're going to finally go into a Helmbreaker, and then the Helmbreaker Spirit Release Slash, followed by looking for any wounds to get right back into red gauge. But if you can't find any wounds, then you'll go back to the playstyle, like I said, of using your Special Sheath and your EI Spirit Slash and your Foresights and whatnot to get your gauge. Now, a way to get gauge quicker to build up to red, that's faster than just attacking back-to-back like this, is actually to use something called the overhead, or not the overhead, the reverse slash, or whatever it's called. What is it called? The fade slash. The fade slash gives you a lot more gauge, and it leads straight into your combo. So you can actually The way I like to do it is, like, let's say I have my weapon sheathed and I'm running up to a monster. I'll do one normal attack into a fade slash into the spirit combo, and that will usually give you enough to get your gauge up. Another option, which is also not bad, is a attack into a special sheath into the EI slash, which it creates a generative effect that you give you gauge over time. And then after that, you can go into your spirit, combo to get to your next gauge. But this, of course, is kind of a slower way to get gauge than by just using the counters at the beginning. That'll be the quickest way to get gauge. This is just like something to fall back onto if you couldn't get gauge through the counters. All right, so now I'll be showing you guys kind of what you can get here with the Adrenaline Rush active. So we're going to use that to gain an extra 10 attack on top of what we have. And that buff lasts like between 25 and 30 seconds. So as you can see now, it's active, and let me wait for bursts and stuff to expire. So we're at 243, and we normally should only be at 233. So it's pretty much active now, and it'll stay active for between, like I said, 25 and 30 seconds. So as long as you're good at using your Foresight Slash, roughly every 25 and 30 seconds, it's always going to be active. And that is a massive 10 attack bonus that you get from just one level 3 decoration slot. So I don't see why you wouldn't run this on pretty much every longsword build, getting this 1 point of Adrenaline Rush. And yeah, let's see, my damage has finally dropped down to 223. So as I said, see, it says Adrenaline skills worn off. Yeah, that was like 20-30 seconds. That was pretty long. So yeah, I currently don't have my Frenzy cured, but like with Frenzy cured, with Adrenaline Rush, with all our buffs up, burst, and like Might Pill, maybe if you're using Demon Drugs and stuff, like you can get your attack probably close to 300, if not beyond 300, with 100% crit and 720 elements. You're just doing crazy damage. Monsters are not going to be able to withstand that for long. And it's just shy of what I would consider a speedrunner build that is still fairly reasonable for the average player to be using. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope this shows off some builds that are kind of each a step further into higher damage at the cost of, I guess, some quality of life. But, you know, start out with one and you kind of graduate to the next one and keep going up until you get comfortable with it. And then finally ending with, I would say, the highest damage non-speedrunner build that you can go for. Yeah, it has pretty much everything going for it. Weakness Exploit 5, Burst 5, Max Might 3, the Gormagala and the Ebony set bonuses both, which give both more damage. Yeah, a bit of Constitution to reduce that cost. I'll actually show you guys kind of something interesting here with the red gauge, which is a really key thing, is the way that the Constitution works is it reduces the stamina consumption, the fixed stamina consumption on things like Foresight. And with just 2 points in Constitution, I'll show you that you get back to full stamina right as you get back into melee range. You see how I got right back to full stamina right as I got back to melee range? If I didn't have the points in Constitution, I would still be generating my stamina back for like another second or two as I'm using my Crimson Slash. So I have a bit of maximum might downtime there that I don't want to have. So actually Constitution is not completely useless. It is giving us that better maximum might uptime after using our Foresight. And that just gives us more damage. So yeah, overall, not bad. And yeah, this is the highest DPS set that I came up with. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.